Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Winback, and on today's episode of Heroes of the Storm, we're going to be playing Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, the guy who hates things, who doesn't have any legs and rides around on a little fart cloud of souls. He's got lots of stuff to be angry about because I don't really ever have fun playing this character anymore, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But this is a YouTube video, so feel free to like, comment, subscribe your heart out, and we will get into these team comps. The Varian, the Chromie, the Malfurion, the Vala, the Mephisto versus the Orphea, the Ana, the Artanis, the Asmodan, and the Diablo. 3 A's right in a row. That wasn't difficult or anything. Right, so Mephisto got a couple changes recently where he, his Q now does... Well, it's going to do damage faster because of the fact that the missile speed is quicker, or the time it takes for the missile to launch is faster. So that got reduced by a very small amount of time, which is really helpful. And that is going to kind of unlock some ability for us to do damage with our Q. Because not only is this build going to focus on that, it's going to buff our Q damage and the number of charges of Q that we get by completing the quest. He didn't. He walked up to not stun me after the flip, so that's really cool. We're just gonna get some nice, easy skull missile damage on that bad boy. He is just eating it. Can we get the Orphea? Not gonna happen. Looks like she is just a little bit too healy for my taste. But if you're not familiar with Mephisto, his abilities are pretty simple. Yeah, pretty simple. Difficult to aim, for sure, but pretty simple in theory. Now, your trait, the most important part of Mephisto, is called Lord of Hatred. Hitting enemies with basic abilities is going to reduce the cooldowns of your basic abilities. You're alive. I am going to body block. Orphea is going to miss, and everything is going to be perfectly fine. Vala makes it out. But the cooldown reduction from hitting your abilities on heroes is very important for Mephisto because these cooldowns are not short. 8 seconds on your Q, which is pretty whatever for a easily dodgeable missile. And then your W is 14 seconds, which is where all your consistent damage comes from. And then your teleport is 18 seconds. So you can see just how much that would creep directly up your butt. If you're not hitting heroes and reducing the cooldown. Can I save him? We can save the Malfurion, and we can watch that Orphea just get disintegrated by sand. Perfect. Now, Lord of Hatred is, again, the whole reason that Mephisto can do ridiculous amounts of damage, but that leads into your other abilities. So, Q, your skull missile, conjure a skull that's going to travel in a direction, and it's going to deal 155 damage to heroes hit and slow them by a small amount when they're hit. So the wind-up itself is a little bit of a bummer, but it does travel fast enough and far enough that it is definitely able to hit multiple heroes at multiple distances. So it's really strong ability, but it's definitely easy to miss in certain situations as well. If there weren't an Asmo, Diablo, and an Artanis on the other team, we wouldn't be hitting shit, I promise you. Because Ana's hitbox is super tiny, and so is Orphea's. And it's really, really frustrating picking this talent and then just having all of the skulls dodged because teeny tiny hitboxes just dodge shit all by themselves. I'm pretty sure I missed that Q there. I think it just went directly past Orphea because she's so tiny. But all that being said, the Q is going to be the focus of this build. This is where all the talents are focused, so it's going to be very, very strong as the game progresses. Specifically because Skull Missile is going to reduce the cooldowns of our basic abilities by 1.5 seconds based on how many heroes it's hitting. So if we hit 2 heroes with 1 Skull Missile, we're getting 3 seconds off of all of our abilities, which is crazy good. And we're going to get 2 charges of Skull Missile. So if we're hitting more than 2 people, you can see where I'm going. There's lots of damage to be had, lots of just ripping it that we can do. Your W, though, is the Lightning Nova. That is the big circle around Mephisto. It's just lightning. It is It does take some getting used to. I'm not going to lie to you. This ability is difficult to hit until you figure out how far apart you need to be away from the person that you're hitting. So, in order to practice this, what I'd suggest doing is not teleporting in first to do it, and then getting used to how far away you have to be from other heroes just to stand with them and follow them around with the lightning circle. Even auto-attacking while this is going on is a little bit tough because you constantly have to reposition to the way that your enemy is repositioning. And the way that this ability does damage is that it's going to do more damage as it continues to hit people. So the more that it hits, the more damage that it does, and the more cooldown reduction that you're going to get. It has to connect with people to get the cooldown reduction. You can see there when we're hitting Orphea, the damage is going up when it's connecting to her because that's just how the ability works. Same thing there with all the crit kickers. You can see the 80 damage. Oh, I may have gone a bit too far. We're fine. Everything's fine. We have a healer. We have a tank. No need to worry. Playing Mephisto without a healer and a tank is very difficult. Just extremely frustrating and difficult. And that's the reason that it took me, I want to say it was like 10 games with this character to get a game that I was comfortable with showing you guys. It's not to say that there were all 10 losses, but some of them were just like, ugh, God, that was a bad game. It felt like a bad game even though we won. Or like, we'll lose, I'll be doing really well, but the game's still like a complete wash because my team gets run over, or we'll lose some late game team fight. Like, it's rough. So you want a tank and you want a healer with this character because he can be that hyper carry that you need, but if he gets jumped on or if he gets followed back to his shade, which is our E, he's 100% susceptible to burst damage, just murder buttons. So your shade, your teleport, your E, is going to teleport Mephisto forward or whichever direction that you want. It's going to do small damage in an AoE, which is going to also, I missed, god damn it, which is also going to affect your Lord of Hatred. So it does 1.5 seconds of cooldown reduction if you manage to hit someone with the tiny AoE around Shade of Mephisto, and then after, I think it's 2 seconds, you're going to teleport back to that spot no matter what. So if you're CC'd, if you're taunted, if you're whatevered with Mephisto, you're going to go back to that initial location that you've teleported from. We're just trying to get... Another problem that I have with this character is that my W, I will hit my EW so fast that the game won't register that I've hit W, which is really frustrating, and it happens way more often than I would like. Chromie getting out of there with 5 health, you're welcome. That's how we peel as a DPS. We just stand up forward and be spooky. Because we're demons. Anyway, your Shade of Mephisto, though, no matter what happens to you, you're going back to that initial location, so you better be damn sure wherever you have teleported from, you're safe to do so. Because if a Diablo or a Dahaka just walk up to your ass when you teleport backwards, you're going to get CC'd out of your gourd. And it's going to suck. The caveat to this is that if you get gorged or cocooned when you are shading as Mephisto, your shade will be killed. The shade disappears, and Stitches is going to drag you back to wherever he wants to, or Anubarak is just going to have you pop out of that cocoon when the time comes. I don't think that there are any other caveats to it. Actually, maybe Maev's stasis. But as far as things like Chromie's hourglass, that's not going to stop the shade. So when you come out of stasis, you'll go back. And then her time loop, since the window of time that it's rewinding is so big, that will hurt, but you'll still go back to your original location with the shade before teleporting to Chromie's rewind location. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting interactions that go along with this ability, but We could probably get hung up on that for a while, so we'll just let that go. The ult that we picked up today is the Durance of Hate. It is a very long-range skill shot that is going to root the first person that we hit while doing damage, and then if it hits someone, it is going to spread outward in an AoE, and is going to root other people hit, other enemies hit. So really helpful for locking down big areas of space and team fights, just completely immobilizing the enemy team if they're all in the circle. It's really, really good. You probably noticed in the, I think it was the Johanna video earlier, you can unstoppable through the initial missile of Shade of Mephisto, but it used to be that if you were unstoppable, you would just eat the missile, and now it's to the point where you'll still eat it, you'll still be unstoppable, but it will still spread outwards from you. So that's a pretty cool quality of life change. Huge damage as we teleport in there, killing 2 after the Durance of Hate route. Really awesome stuff. But it's mostly Q, it's mostly W, and if I'm being real, I mean, I used to love this character. When he came out, it felt so good to just like crush teams with the amount of damage that he could do. But as of late, maybe it's the team comp thing. Because there are so few tank healer team comps in quick match, it's really unfun to play Mephisto because he really needs those things to shine as a character, which is unfortunate. And you can't get a Q specific to that, which I really wish would be implemented at some point. Like, I don't want to play 5 assassin comps. I don't want to play versus Zeratul and Nova and Genji and all that shit while I'm playing Mephisto. Like, you know? Mobility also really tough for Mephisto to deal with because his W, being his main form of damage, is really hard to hit on characters that are just going to either stand outside of that range very easily or blink or dash or move in and out of that range very easily. I mean, it's really rough if you don't have CC to help this character land some of his abilities. But all that being said, very possible to kill people. He is a mage, though, since it's all AoE damage. It's supposed to be very difficult to hit on certain targets. Now, the other cool thing about Mephisto's talent builds is that the builds themselves just go really well together. So no matter what you're building, you're going to get crazy amounts of damage from it. You just have to think about how you're going to play it and where all that damage is coming from. Specifically, when we're playing Q build like we are right now, a lot of our damage is baked into our later game talents. So you do have to scale quite a bit. You do have to complete the quest. You do have to try to aim a bit, which is, you know, unfortunate. But I just want to smash my face into the keyboard and kill people, and that's just not a thing that you can do sometimes. But anyway, the build itself, we're going to start off with Unyielding Power. This is going to give you 100 extra damage on Skull Missile at 20 heroes hit, and then at 40 heroes hit, you're going to get a second charge. So we're doing 257 at level 18 with 100 extra damage, 357, and that is only on a single hit. That's not counting all the cooldowns that we can get off with this booger, and the extra damage that we're getting at level 16 with Lightning Reaction, which is super important for this build, by the way. Your level 4 talent, really, really, really important, especially if you're building Q. You want to have Spite. Spite is going to turn on your passive when you pick up a regen globe, which is the whole reason that Mephisto has the ability to clear waves, which is something that he severely lacked prior to one of his more recent updates. It used to be there was no way for him to get his cooldowns back, and they were all obscenely long, so if Mephisto had to soak a lane, he was just fucked, because it's going to take 100 years, and his team would get engaged on while that was all happening. It was a real feels bad moment. Just really, really bad. But Spite is going to increase the duration of the globe. It's going to trigger your cooldown reduction. It's going to make everything that you need to do even better. We're throwing the balls out, shooting some skulls, shooting some lightning, trying to get out of here. Can we do it? I got hit by the swap. I have died because I was not ready for it. Should have just kept an eye out. Unfortunate. trying to get some more cooldowns back, but they're walking towards me at a ridiculous pace, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. He didn't die in that engage. In situations where it's the late game team fight, if you're the tank, it's probably really good to die for your mega carry, but since it's quick match, since I don't even do that, I'm selfish. Just know that as a tank player in the late game, if you're ever in a competitive scenario, it's okay to die to keep one of your big carries alive. Not like this, which is just like running forward face first and killing yourself, but I mean like to keep them alive and then maybe them get some kills and you die. But it's all about trading, unfortunately. Our Varian was not invited to that conversation. Anyway, we're coming back almost alive. I think we're going to lose the robot, which is fine. It's not that big a deal. Robot kind of sucks. So we can talk about our other talents. Your level 7 talents are all going to be Shade of Mephisto talents. One of them is going to give you armor. One of them is going to give you movement speed and potentially a reset on the ability itself. And one of them is going to cause your Q to increase in slow a very large amount. So basically, when we teleport with Froststorm, we're going to be able to slow someone by 50% if we hit them with our Q while our Shade of Mephisto is going. Our Lightning Nova also going to slow by 15% while we're shading. 15% is not terrible, but 50 is insane. And that's all Q. Since we're having all these skull missiles launch out all the time anyway, and there's only 2 charges, or I mean there is also 2 charges, you can imagine how much slowing, how much cooldown reduction, how easy it is for us to just line shit up on people and crush them. It's really good. Even the robot's fucking running away from us because he knows we're just shredding that health bar. Crazy amounts of damage. Right, but that's... I mean, 7's probably more of a preference tier than anything. Some people are going to like that movement speed to better adjust for your Lightning Nova. Some people are going to like the Ghastly Armor to stay alive more in your team fights. I think they all have merit. I just like Froststorm more because I like the Q build the most. Jesus. Obliterating that Diablo. The Lord of Hatred kills the Lord of Terror. And that's it. That's the whole story. So 10 we already talked about. 13 is a little bit new. I don't see a lot of people picking this talent. And I see a lot of people going for Shard of Hate instead, because Shard of Hate is giving you more clear, more cooldown reduction. But when we're building Q, taking Abhorred Skull is going to give us 25% spell power for 6 seconds when we hit someone with a Q. It's also going to deal 40% more damage to heroes that are less than half life, which is pretty easy to do with this character when you're hitting lightning reaction combos or there's a lot of damage on a lower target. So you just fire these Qs off so often, you're going to get big increases in spell power and big increases in damage on low health targets. It feels really good. And that spell power applies to your W, so not only are you getting extra damage on your Q, you're buffing the rest of the kit damage as well. So it's a win-win, I feel like, when you're playing this build. That's not to say that Hysteria and Shard of Hate aren't equally broken. This one's a little bit sleeper. I don't see a lot of people pick this, and it's a bit unfortunate. That's me not adjusting very well to... Ooh, they're just walking directly into us, huh? Big Endurance of Hate, only landing on 2 people, though. Looks like we're going to kill Artanis before he can get his turret down. Diablo also going to die trying to pick up the turret, and Orphea died at some point as well. I love it when the enemy team just runs face first at us on a camp. That's really probably not worth all of them dying this late into the game. Mephisto does not have the greatest siege in the world, but it's certainly not terrible. He can do a lot of damage to buildings, but at the same time, if you don't have any minions there to tank for you, you're not going to get anything done, because he's got to go in to turret range to get damage on stuff. So Still 30 seconds on all those bad boys from the enemy team, so we can definitely get this keep down. Just got to try a little bit harder to focus it. Get our Varian up front there to tank all the shit. Here comes some minions, so we won't have to worry about that for long. Oof. Alright, finally it goes down. Now 16 is the 100% necessary late game talent for this build. Lightning Reaction is going to give you 327 damage anytime that your Skull Missile crosses the barrier of your Lightning Nova while Lightning Nova is active. What this means is that when you have your W going, if there is a Q headed toward the general vicinity of an enemy player, you want to have it cross the circle multiple times. I don't know if you've been keeping up, but it has been happening quite often, and it's insane amounts of burst damage because the AoE explosion as it crosses the line is almost as much damage as your Q itself. So you can basically double or triple the damage coming from it. It's really, really insane. Missed the Durance of Hate, was waiting forever to get the taunt from the Varian, who just used it at the worst possible time, but I guess it's fine. We're still getting all of the kills as the enemy team just runs at us. I'll probably end up going back to deal with the Asmo, but this is pretty much game ending, you know? We'll go get the catapult out of the way. The protector will push it on down. We'll see what happens. The 20 for Mephisto is up to you. Mimic is also going to increase a lot of the damage that you can do with lightning reactions, so it's perfectly usable. Probably the better talent. But we took Unspeakable Horror instead because the root and the silence on targets that get hit, like Diablo, Artanis, Orphea, if they can't use abilities or if they can't use their movement, they're just completely fucked. And that increased silence duration, or that increased silence on them, like, look at how much damage that is with those Qs. The only reason he lived there is because Ana active reloaded all over his face. Crazy, just crazy amounts of damage. But the silence and the root, I feel like they're really strong for team fighting, and with as much as the enemy team was willing to just run at us, why not? Just rip it in their face, watch them all run, and then get the MVP. Just nice and easy. Got that out of the way. This was a good game. I did definitely feel like, you know, this is fun when I was playing this hero, but that's because of the healer and the tank. Had this been any other game, I'd probably been like, fuck this, I hate this, this is so bad, please give me another game to play. But anyway, the build again, one more time in case you need it. Unyielding Power at 1, Spite at 4, 7 is Froststorm, Durance of Hate at 10, 13 is Abhorred Skull, 16 is Lightning Reaction, and Unspeakable Horror at level 20. Didn't even get a level 20 talent because he didn't hit full stacks. Probably because he was just split pushing the entire game. So maybe don't pick that 20, buddy. Maybe don't do it. What do we end up? 182,000 on the siege damage, which is crazy good. And it's all lightning reaction there because of all the AoE clearing that we're doing. All the damage to the buildings is nuts. The hero damage, 95,000. Crazy good yet again. And then 22,000 XP contributed on top of that. Just, this hero is a stat wagon. So if you're picking him, as long as you're not dying, you're just going to be farming numbers and potentially MVP too, because like this is good. But that's it for Mephisto. We'll be back tomorrow. Murden will end the week for us. But that is it. I'll see you guys there.